morning. I just want to welcome everybody to session 3 of our new podcast from the MSP Business School. I'm Tim McNeil from OSR Manage. I am joined by Brian Doyle of VCIO Toolbox and Rob Rogers, who's actually my business partner over at OSR Manage. Today we're going to focus on what the new normal is in this COVID-19 situation. I think everybody can agree we're going through a once in a lifetime scenario, and it's really proved to weed out the good MSPs from maybe some MSPs that could need a little bit more help. And what we're going to focus on is how being a CIO is so important to your clients. And I guess with that, I'd like to segue that right out of the gate to Brian and how you found success in that.
Sure. So first thing I'll do is I'm going to put my bias down because obviously I think VCIOs are incredibly important. But putting that aside, though, really what it's come down to is that strategies have changed. We counsel people that each year you want to go in and build a strategic plan, and you really want to understand what key goals, key initiatives, and key obstacles you see to succeeding on that plan. Well, I don't think any of us back in January, as we were sitting down, or at the end of last year in December, as we were sitting down and putting together our strategic plan, we put down as an obstacle a worldwide pandemic, right? So The reality is we all had financial targets we were looking to hit. I'm sure we had growth targets we were looking to hit. We saw, new product initiatives we were looking to put out. And a lot of that's been put on hold because of the things that we experienced, recently, right? So with that being said, we're seeing the role of the VCIO take on a new level of importance and really helping elevate those people to the stature that they really deserve, right? There's two types of VCIOs that we see in the marketplace. Those folks that are just out there doing business reviews and unfortunately spending too much time on the tactics, right? How many tickets we did, what the performance, of those tickets were, did we hit our SLAs? And while I agree that's important information, it's only part of the VCIO story. We're really seeing the VCIOs making a difference through, especially through this crisis and certainly under normal conditions, is in helping those customers develop their strategy and helping them understand really what they're trying to shoot for. Because for some small to mid-sized business companies, building a strategy is not something they're comfortable with, right? A lot of us, you guys can certainly share your story, but when I opened up my first MSP, Proactive Technologies, it was because our previous MSP got bit by the .com bug. Almost think of, similar to what some companies are going through in this pandemic. We went from 8 employees to 52 employees, back down to 8 employees in 18 months. And, myself and my partner, Frank, neither one of us had any business opening up a company at that stage. We knew nothing. It's strategic plan. It was how do we get enough money in the till to pay our bills next month, right? We had a handful of customers and no job, and that's how we got out to market, right? And but that's the story of a lot of new entrepreneurs and a lot of new business people, right? A lot of technical founders have come from that cloth. And, that's the American dream. We're all chasing after it. But as part of that dream, it's not just about making money today, but how do you make your business better in the long term? So our VCIOs are really rolling up their sleeves right now and getting in with those customers and helping them understand, hey, things have changed, not just from a business has changed, that's an obvious standpoint, but the tactics you need to take to support your teams has completely and radically changed as well. Work from home brought a lot of new things to light. It's going to be interesting to watch the commercial real estate market over the next few years as big companies that were resistant, like banks, to sending people home, found out it wasn't as bad and painful as they thought. And they start looking to shed some of that real estate. And you're going to also see that offers opportunity to the MSP space, especially those that are in areas, the three of us are here in the Northeast where everybody's moving out of these days, especially here in Connecticut. As you start looking at where the best talent is, you're not bound to that, 50-mile radius in your office. So our VCIOs can really go in there and help the company structure their strategic planning, and by proxy, then be able to build tactics and initiatives that technology that can support those goals and really help those people drive the next phase of their business, whatever that new normal might be down the road. What are you guys experiencing?
Wow. On that side of it, what we typically see on, the CIO side is they're always focusing on, during the meetings and during the quarterlies on the past and the present,
Yeah.
but they never really have time or an understanding for the future, right? So we like to consider those meetings to be the past, present, and future meetings, and the future meetings, especially right now, right, are what really are going to separate the good, CIOs,
Mhm.
from the ones that are struggling. And that future piece is where the strategy comes into play. And that is where, everybody's got to like really start, kind of just doing a paradigm shift in their head to really focus on it. Can't just be the ones and the zeros, the metrics. It has to be on how can you fix your prospects or your clients core competencies to make them better in this new normal that's going to be coming out. And that's where people are going to be needing to focus.
No doubt, and going beyond even the internal side of it, or excuse me, the external side of it with our clients, we got to look at the internal side too. Our staff makeups may look different. There was a
Mm,
lot of folks that
Yeah.
really went through that layoff period during this, even with the stimulus. Some of them couldn't get to that rainbow where the money finally came in before having to make those tough decisions.
right.
So our staffing might look dramatically different. We may have absence of skill sets that we had an abundance of before we
Mm.
went into this crisis. And we're going to have to learn how to shift our roles as part of this process, right? It's going to be almost going back, for those more established companies, going back to some of the early days where you had to roll up your sleeves as leadership and get your hands a little bit dirtier during this process.
And
So, one of the things that, I'm really suggesting to folks that we talk to is take an internal stock of your business now. What did you lose? What are the capacities that you lost during this process, if any? What is that going to mean to your business in terms of that void? And then who are the right people that might
Mm.
have those skill sets or can possess you know, the ability to be trained and trained relatively quickly to fill some of those gaps while you look at a restaffing process that, quite candidly for those tough to fill positions could take 6 months.
Yeah, yeah, and then to that point, I mean, we've seen, and we have clients. We've got clients all over North America, right? And we have
Yeah,
a couple of clients where just over when people adjusted to the work from home, they had their salespeople handling level one ticketing issues because their tickets. We saw our clients have ticket increase ranges anywhere from 50 to 300%
it's amazing.
during about a 10 to 14-day time period. So it was all hands
Yeah.
on deck. I mean, we have one client in Canada specifically, sales guy. This person books more appointments than anybody we have ever managed. It's if we could duplicate him across the country, every MSP out there would be making a lot of money right now. But they needed help. They were drowning, and they shifted him to help desk. They kind of taught him on the fly. He was doing if there's something in between a level one help desk and admin, he was doing that, but he was serving a role, and it got them over a really a really large hump that they were going
He
over
learned a
because they're
lot too.
pretty. He did, and he's been able to apply that to his calling now that things are on the slower side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that kind of rolls right into the some of the lessons that have been learned and the gaps that are out there right now, and what different companies are experiencing, kind of like what you mentioned. I mean, what else are you seeing out there, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, really, kind of in line with what you're talking about, it's really forcing people. Look, everybody had to step up during this process
Oh
anyway,
yeah.
right?
Mm,
People adapted quickly and they really adjusted to this. But it doesn't end as we're coming out of it, right? As we get back to work, in the new normal, people are going to still have to step up and now take on new positions or look
mm,
at things in a different manner than they did before. And where VCIOs can help clients in that process is really helping guide that conversation and really, ask the questions, be consultative in those meetings and really kind of say, well, you're now doing this, Tim. What does that mean for you? Have you looked at it from this position? Because it's not something you might just be hanging on to short term. And
mm,
it's also something that, you may not have considered before. So we can really, look that way. And then really kind of dovetailing off of that, I think all of us have to take this moment too to pause and reflect back on this process and understand where those lessons learned came from and what
mm,
gaps we really saw during this process.
Mm.
For VCIOs, the simple gaps are, hey, when you send everybody home, what went wrong and what can we build? Is it emergency kits for walk at home, where you can also send out, wireless keyboards and mice to everybody, right?
Yeah.
It sounds trivial, but those are some of the biggest things we're finding as challenges.
Well,
I personally suffered through not being able to get a webcam for a second webcam for my wife, who's a teacher, and that, those webcams sold out so quick. They're on 4-week back order. So
Yeah.
you've got key personnel in companies
Yeah.
that can't do these visible meetings like we're doing right now.
Yeah.
So really, there's just a lot that can be looked back on and said, how can we improve access, security, you name it. There's a ton of different items.
Well, and just to add to that a little bit, and this is admittedly a little bit of a squirrel, but also relevant. One of the better ideas that I heard just from being on different webinars and think tanks recently is there's an MSP, I believe they're in Cleveland, Ohio. I could be wrong on that, but they before things really got too crazy and everybody was sent home, while they still had access to their clients' offices, every tech that went into that office, they were required to bring their own keyboard and mouse and their own USB, right? So they had their own portable. They were not allowed to touch anything, and whatever workstation they were at, they had to wipe down. So I say that because that is not a bad thing to adopt as the new norm moving forward.
Yeah, and
For everybody, right? I mean, whether it's a pandemic or not, it's all about keeping viruses down, and that's one way. It's one really good thing that could come out of this.
well, even before this situation, if you went back and looked at the cost of sick days across the globe every year, anything you can do to keep your environment a little bit healthier is going to be something that folks think about as we move into this new normal.
Yeah.
Rob, what other things are you kind of feeling from the people you're talking to in terms of the new normal?
So, on my side, the new normal, is just everybody is trying to, during this time, like get an understanding of what the future is going to hold. And they're trying to do two things in order to set themselves up for the future. Number one is building all their processes that they thought that they were doing, but really the techs on one side of it were doing it one way, and ownership thought that they were doing it another way. And so this whole thing working from home is changing all the processes. So they're trying to map all that stuff out and really get all the key performance indicators on that side of the house, so their house is in order for when they have to, when they launch out. But one of the big things that we're seeing out there right now is the security piece. Zoom bombing's an issue. People coming in, all these new buzzwords are coming out.
Yeah.
And so, like, one of the things that we're seeing is whoever's going to be at the forefront of the security issue that's going to be coming up is going to be the one who leads the charge in the competitive advantage.
Yeah, I agree completely with you. I mean, work from home opens up a lot of holes in security, and there's been a lot of challenges. We've discussed it in previous episodes, but those employees that get laid off and retrieving those assets from those folks during this period is difficult. And let's face it, just general security awareness. Awareness training has definitely been something that our MSP partners have been selling quite a bit of over time now.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is not every customer jumps on board, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's really going to be an opportunity for awareness. And then even employee monitoring might be something that comes into a little bit more vogue as we move forward. I've talked to a lot of folks that are really challenged by, hey, how do I really know if my employees are working from home?
Mm-hmm.
I know you guys have employed the tactic of having a huddle meeting in the morning and a closing day call, and that certainly keeps you kind of in touch with people.
Yeah.
But we really don't know what they're doing in the middle and how productive they're being. And
Right.
we don't want to be like Big Brother.
Yeah.
But the reality is we've got to figure it out. So, one of the things that I heard from folks is starting to employ call center software a little bit more so.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily for all the call center features round robin, but really just understanding how much are people on calls, how much are they on webinars, since those things tightly couple now, and are they, can they at least see that there's 65% utilization going on during these interesting work from home times?
Yeah.
What are your guys' thoughts on that?
I think that's a very interesting and relevant point. I think depending on the state that you're in, depending on if you can record calls or not record calls, you can still you can still figure out what your time on phone is, right? And it's a good for those people out there using the OS model. That could be one of the numbers that you put in a scorecard and track. What's your salesperson's time on phone, or what's your text time on phone, and how does it compare when they're in the office and not in the office?
Mm-hmm.
If you're starting to see discrepancies, then that's a red flag, right? So I think that there's a lot of relevance around seeing what that talk time is, whether you're a salesperson or a tech, and creating that 13-day, or I'm sorry, the 13-week scorecard to see trends up and down.
Yeah.
So.
I know one of my clients is, looking at their Microsoft Analytics a lot more now.
Yeah.
And he's seeing a huge upspike in emails across his, across his company. And, so that's just, just one more thing that people are using to track.
Yep.
Like, we like Teams. Because on Teams, it shows when an employee is green, when they're yellow, and when they're red. So that's just one of the ways that we're just, without being intrusive, we're able to see that, employees they're doing stuff and they're working every day. But yeah, it's the new normal.
Yeah, what I caught out of that one from you?
What?
Email is not dead.
yeah.
Everybody keeps trying to kill it, but man, it's going to live forever.
It is not.
This person specifically that he's talking about is somebody who he's got a very successful company, and his point was, I was already at max capacity, and now I'm finding out that I'm spending 30% more time on emails.
Yep.
So how the hell am I, like, what is going on right now? I mean, it was an amusing conversation at the end of the day.
Further supports that other famous line, which is, that was a meeting that could have been done in an email.
Yeah.
All right, well, guys, we're coming towards the tail end of our episode today. Just curious if anybody else has anything else they'd like to add about the new normal before we close.
It's all about flexibility right now.
Yep.
I know the term is new normal, but it's going to keep shifting, and it's going to shift again in 3 to 6 weeks, and then it's going to shift right after that. So there's going to be a lot of flexibility, and the people that are building strategies and are thinking about everything are the ones that are going to win, right? Yeah. So you can't just think about the past and the present. You've got to be thinking about the future.
Yep. Yeah, and I would just add that, look, everybody's going through this. It's what everybody probably expected would be, was hoping would be weeks and months, may end up being the whole calendar year of 2020. I mean, they're already talking about, me being a concert person, they're already talking about concerts being canceled in July, right? Yeah. So this is going to affect us for a while, and it's just being able to adapt in a crazy climate, and knowing that it will end, trusting that it will end, and we will go back to the old normal. And when we do, I think everybody's going to appreciate it a lot more.
There'll be a lot less handshaking.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot more elbow bumps.
That's right.
But I'll close this with, a counterpoint to that, right? While people will be remembering this for a while, we're also trained as humans to forget quickly, yes, right?
That is
the way we survive, the way we adapt is to continue to move forward. And if we don't, not to be that guy, but I'm going to be. If ECIOs and MSPs don't take advantage of the first 3 months to 6 months after this crisis to get those initiatives that came out of the lessons learned done and work with their customers on those strategies, just as humans, we're going to forget. As soon as we hit the holidays, as much as the pandemic came into play, we'll have started our recovery, and we will have moved past this. And if we don't get those initiatives done now, they will become the initiatives that get delayed forever all over again. So, really, in the new normal, if you take nothing away, it really should be act quickly and act with intention as we move into the next phase of all of our lives, right?
Completely agree.
Very much agree.
So,
very much.
Rob and Tim, appreciate again you guys joining this week, and stay tuned. Next week we'll have another episode of the MSP Business School coming out your way.
All right, take care, guys.
Have a good day.